case. Okay, so welcome to today's lesson. Holy cow. Here we are in week 8, or lesson 8. Goes fast, yes?
Yes.
Like I say, every time I start a program, I say, you know, you may think a couple months is going to take a while, but we get started, you're in week 1, you come back, and you're in week 2 doing some stats, and you think, oh yeah, we're getting going, and hopefully your mindset wasn't, I got lots of time, because you should always have a little sense of urgency when you're building your business. You got to get this going, because next thing you know, you're in week 4, and I said, hey, we're half done, and everyone was kind of, wow. You know, and some people, they're motoring good, and they got some production, and they're getting some, talking to more people than ever, and they're in a good spot. They have their goal or reward, and on the back, you're trying to get how many listings as fast as possible?
8.
8 as fast as possible, and you check it off every time you get one. And then the next thing you know, I'm doing week 6, and I'm saying, hey, we're done the lessons in 2 weeks. But after lesson 8, which is after today, I'm still going to give you some weekly activities, so you've done not just 8 lessons, but eight weeks of activities. Sounds good?
Yes.
And then here we are, boom, week 8. Just like that. You know, I've talked to Peter and a few other people that are saying, man, I just wish we could just keep it going. Well, there are some options to keep it going, but I'll talk about that a little later. Fair enough, gang?
Yes.
So, but back then also when we started, I started talking about the pessimist and the optimist. So I want you to critique yourself without saying anything to your neighbor or saying anything out loud. Just in your mind, critique yourself. And I'm going to say what I said before, and then I want you to grade yourself in your mind to say which one of these you were more like. Now, a pessimistic person is someone that looks for the difficulty in every opportunity that they're taught or that comes past them. They're always looking for a reason not to do it, or why it doesn't work, or why it's hard. A pessimist looks for the what in every opportunity? The difficulty. An optimistic person looks for the opportunity in things that are difficult, because everything seems to be difficult at some point until you say it's an opportunity. So in your mind, just give yourself a checkup from the neck up and say, you know, was I more of a pessimist in the last 7 weeks so far, or more of an optimist? And that's something that if you said, yeah, I've been probably more pessimistic over the last 7 weeks, then you got something to work on, which is the first key to success, which is what? Attitude. If you've been optimistic all the time, even when things were not working. That's how you know you're an optimist, is when things are not quite going exactly how you want, you know, not fast enough, or I'm not getting enough appointments, or I'm not getting enough sales, but you're still doing something in the real estate business, and you're always saying, it'll come, I have no quit attitude, it'll come, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, I know it, I feel good, I'm, you know, being consistent. Every day that you're working, a minimum of 5 days a week you're working in this class. If you worked 5 days a week and you tried 5 times, or 5, you know, each day you tried, then you're an optimistic person, you know? And that's what you need to, how you need to gauge yourself a little bit on that. So, you know what? Remember, the pessimist, like I said, is always looking for the difficulty. So if you trusted the program and you did your best each week, if you did it each week, you would have created some great habits by now, possibly even made a tremendous amount of money. I remember I was a student at one time, and the third time I did a course where it was spaced learning, 2 months, it was 85 transactions. And then they asked me to be a trainer. But I remember, I never thought of being a trainer. But I just remember the third time I'd done it, I thought, wow, like the first time I did it, it helped me to get going in my career. Got a few deals and a couple of listings and all that stuff. Then a year later when they came back, I'm going to be coming back in a few months actually to this city, and I got some announcements to make a little later. So you should all come to at least the free training event just to give yourself a refresher, yes? Yes. And then the course, of course you can take it again. But I noticed the second time and the third time I'd done something like this, my production just started skyrocketing. And I think we can only take in so much. So when you hear, if you ever take the course again, you'll almost feel like it's a new course. Because look at the amount of material we have in here. The book is this thick, and we've got 8 weeks. There's only so much you remembered. Isn't that right? But I hope you listened to the audio tracks, so at least you remembered more than you would have normally. All right. So we started out with 8 keys to success. 8 areas of this business that you had to master. What was the first key to success?
Attitude.
Attitude. Check up from the neck up. Isn't that right? Yep. The second key to success?
Appointments.
Book a whole bunch of appointments. That's right. And the third key to success?
Generate leads.
Generate leads for
Presentation.
listening presentations and buyer presentations is kind of taught, not taught in that session, but talked about. We did that last week actually, the buyer presentation. I have something I wanted to talk to you about in a moment about getting buyer agency signed. So I'll do that in a second. Let's get the rest of the keys to success. So number 5, price and net. Show them how most successful sellers pick the right price. Good one there to remember, isn't that right? And the next one, don't fold like a cheap lawn chair. So in other words, handle objections, objection handling techniques. That's a good lesson, yes?
Yep.
And seventh key to success? Last week was business operations. Did you like the money segment?
Yes.
You know, pay your taxes, put money into your business, divide a little bit of what's left for yourself in certain areas, create a passive income, have enough money to pay your bills. So you probably have to do 2 deals a month minimum, but you wouldn't focus on 2, because if you focus on 2, you might get 1 or none. You typically want to focus on probably 2 transactions a week, like this team did, got 2.8. So you get a listing and a sale every single week for the weeks you work. In fact, your business would be open 52 weeks a year, and once you've got it set up right, you might only work 40, but those other 12 weeks, however they're spread out throughout the year, you'll still be getting 2 points, 2 transactions a week with a listing or a sale. Because your business will get it. Isn't that great? All right. And what's the final key to success, which is today's theme? Time management, our most valuable commodity. So, I wanted to thank you all for the lovely testimonials. I got a whole bunch. And I can't tell you how pleased I am with that. I was just, as they were coming in, I was going, wow, more, we're a small group, but I got testimonies from almost everybody, so I really, really appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me. So we'll put them on our website. And let me talk a little bit, pick up where we left off last week. But just so you know, today it's about time management. We're also going to be talking about writing an offer and presenting an offer. And then we're going to talk about how to keep the momentum going, as I mentioned, with how you could do a focus group, or how your office meetings can be run, or how you can do one-on-one coaching with me as well. All right? And I also want to make it a bit of a celebration. So last week I said, everyone dress for success. And I see, everyone's got all nice clothes on now, because when we wrap up at the end, we've got a whole bunch of plaques here. So we'll be giving away, today we'll be giving away the Top Producer Award, as you can see. That's a good size plaque. And there's a number of smaller plaques for some other, this one here is Most Improved Award. And this one I always love giving it away. It's always a little bit of surprise. You all voted for who in this room is the top or the most improved. And usually that person is a little bit surprised to hear. And we have a number of other ones, as well as having certificates for everybody as well. Okay? So we'll get to that as we wrap up at the end of the day. So let's see here. What I wanted to start off with was somewhere where I left off last week before I get into time management. Exclusive buyer representation agreement. Remember we talked about the buyer process last week? Remember how many steps there were in the buyer presentation?
8.
8 steps, right? So there was, you tell them what you're going to do before you do it when you meet them at the office here. You get them pre-approved for a mortgage. Have your meeting here at the office. The steps were ask them a series of questions to find out what they want to accomplish. Then tell them about your buyer services that are at no cost to them. Then you make a mutual decision by going over the forms so they understand their responsibilities and what your fiduciary duties are, correct? Mm-hmm. And you start with working with a realtor form or consumer guide, you call it here, and then you have an identification form, FINTRAC, a federal form for their identification, and then you have the buyer representation. And so you're telling them what you're going to do, and then when you get to that step, you start working on the forms. And if they sign, then you can move towards the next step, which is to do a search on your computer, set up some showings, go view it with them, bring them back to the office, go into the client room, do a buyer cost sheet on anything they're interested in. If they're not interested in anything, do another search. If they are interested in one, you're going to write an offer. And we're going to show you how to write your best offer first today. Sounds good?
Yes.
And we'll show you how to present. And of course you have a follow-up program, yes?
Yes.
But back on the forms here, I just want to clarify a couple more things. So remember, to use the yellow highlighter for certain areas, or just follow the black strips that usually say what the paragraph is about. Make sure that you either are working, have 3 buyer appointments a week, or you at least read your forms 3 times a week. All right, gang?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've read these 3 times a week, good for you. And if you've gone on 1 appointment, then you still read it 2 times, then you understand what I'm talking about. Because the last thing you want is be nervous when you're explaining these, yes?
Yeah.
Right? You just want to say what it says. This part here is about this part's about that. And you get to the bottom, you go, any questions? And they go, no. And you go, oh, just initial here. And once you're good at just explaining these more from a layman's point of view, in other words, not those legal words all the time, more like this is the general idea of what this is, then they're like, yeah, that's great. And you go to the next page. And on most of these buyer agreements, in most parts like I said, teach in Canada and the US, so most provinces and most states, there's a few pages involved, you know, and usually on the 2nd or 3rd page, there's a place where it's called remuneration. What's that? Commissions. So I wanted to let you know what you should put in here for your commissions. Sounds good?
Yes.
And how it works. So if you go and let's say your commissions are 6%. So what you do here is you would put in here that your fee is 3% in the buyer agreement. You put your fee is 3%, and when you want to let them know that you get paid out of the deal. Okay? So remember to say that to them. We'll take a few questions in a while for this too as well. I just want to announce this for you. Fair enough?
Yes.
So you put this part here is for what I get paid, and so I get paid 3% and it comes out of the deal. Okay, do you have any questions on that? Most of them will say, no, that's fine. You know, because you just said it comes out of the deal, right? So then you move on, you get an initial, then you move on. Now make sure you read your forms because each page is a little different. There's different things in here right now, okay? So early into the agreement, buyer acknowledgement, and then there's the last page or 2 that has where they sign. I think these 2 are the same here. And stuff like that, brokerage representation and all that kind of stuff. Now I just want to give you a couple of tips on that commission thing. So let's say they sign it, it's all done, and you do a search. You do a search, and if the most common commission is 6%, and they're offering half, then let's say they search and you say pick your 5 favorite properties. And 5 out of the 5 properties, 4 of them say that they're offering 3%. No problems then, right? But what if there's one that says they're only offering 1%? Well, this is what you can do. Now, technically, according to most commissions and councils in most provinces and states, they'll say that if your client picked a property they want to see, right, you have to show it. Now, if the commissions are not there, like one time here, I saw the commissions offered were $10. How do you feel about working with a buyer, getting them pre-approved, showing the properties, coming back to the office, writing an offer, getting it conditions removed, and getting it all finalized, and then you get $10? How do you feel about that?
Don't feel like doing it.
Don't feel like doing it, yeah. I mean, but you have to, because that's the law. According to the real estate rules or act. All right, you have to. If you don't, you can get into trouble. And they could pick that one. So what you do is you let them know that this agreement here, now you got 5, and then you might say, this one here, if you want to still see it, if you want to write an offer, you'll have to pay the difference. Okay, because they've already agreed that you get paid 3%. Now, here's a tip. When you're getting this filled out, tell them that you want 3% and it comes out of the deal. Don't say anything else. Okay? Don't say it until you need to say it. You're not lying. You're just telling them the truth as you go. Does that make sense? Yep. So they said, yeah, if you're getting paid, that's great. Great, sign here. Okay, that's all done. Now you do a search. And they go, I want these 5. And you print them off, or you look at the highlight sheets and you go, okay, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and 1. We know you guys would all prefer to get paid 3, yes?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I know you're wondering what you should say, but just come from the heart here. How do you feel about somebody saying we're only giving you 1%? How do you feel? I would say not happy if I was in your shoes. I go, I'm not happy. I'm being honest, I don't want to show it, but I know I have to. So at that point, then you say to them, just so you know, you'll have to pay the other 2%. Now I've had a few buyers that said okay, and they paid. That's no problem. It took a down payment, or what do you call it? Not a down payment, but it's called something else.
Closing costs?
No, it's called such a simple word, I can't remember it. Maybe one of you will think about it. But on the buyer side, you can take some money and hold on to it as a, not a deposit, as a,
Initial deposit
yeah, it's called something else. But anyways, I'll figure it out. It can be called that, but
or retainer?
retainer, a retainer, that's the word I was looking for. You can, I've taken 500 or 1,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 retainer with this many times. Okay, it's not hard to do. It goes into a trust account. There's some brokerages that have a trust account for the buyer side. And where does that money go anyways? Let's say they don't buy a house, where does that money go?
Back to them?
Back to them. So it's safe, yes?
Yes.
Trust account means trust. And if they do buy a house, where does that money go?
Commission.
Well, it goes to the down payment of the property, to the lawyer, right? Because it goes with this, and then the lawyer will disperse everything later, right? It literally goes with it. Okay, so if they say they don't want to pay the difference, then I've asked them, I've looked at them and said, if you don't want to, do you still want to see the place? Guess what most of them said to me? Guess.
No.
No. And I just went, okay. Done. Now I got 4 properties all paying 3%. My clients told me what to do. Is that one of our fiduciary duties? Which one? Follow their lawful instructions. I told them the truth. I'm not sure if your counsel will go, that's a close one. But I'm just saying, you know, we should be getting paid. And there should be something about that. So as your trainer, I just want to mention that. And I wanted to have it on camera for everyone that I teach, everyone that sees this, to know that, you know, you need your buyer agency signed, you need to explain what the commissions are, let them know that's the most common one. Most of the properties you're going to see will be offering that, everything's good. Don't say nothing until you find one that says they're paying less, and you say, oh, this could be a problem. If we do see this and you do want it, you would have to pay the difference. Do you want to go ahead with that? And then they say, no. And you say, so you don't want to see this one? No. Gone. Now, if they say, I still want to see it. Now, remember, how you're thinking right now is you're either a pessimist or an optimist. The pessimist is already 5 steps ahead of me on how this is, you're going to lose everything. And you have to gauge your own mind and figure out if you're down there. The optimist is saying, hey, they didn't say nothing. We got 3%. I got 5 properties, all 3%. I go show them. I'm writing offers. It's no big deal. I get one that's less. I'm just going to let them know they'll have to pay the difference. Most of them just say, I don't want to see it. They can't offer at least a reasonable commission. And the pessimist will say, oh no, they'll never say that. And the key word is never, because that's not true. The optimist says, oh, well, sometimes they might ask. Sometimes. So what if they say we still want to see it, but we don't want to pay the difference? Okay, so you say, okay, let's go see the properties. Again, don't say nothing that you're going to be dealing with next. Everyone gets so ahead of themselves so much. They're just messing up things so bad. It's crazy. Excuse me. So, I guess I should have grabbed some Kleenex. So, the what was I saying? Oh, thank you. Let's take some of that. So, where was I at? Oh, so now you go preview the properties, and let's say they pick the one that's only offering 1%. So remember, we've already got back to the office. We spread out to 5. They said, these 4 I'm not interested. We really like this one. You say, oh, that's the one where the commission is an issue. And they don't want to pay. And they said the sellers aren't going to pay. So what do you think is the other last option you can do? What do you think it is? You can write it into the offer. Into the terms, an additional term, that the commissions need to be increased to 3% with the buyer's permission. Mm-hmm. Now, when somebody says to you that they don't want to do that, that they're saying they don't want you to get paid, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about doing all this work for a buyer and they actually said to you, we don't care if you get paid or not? How do you feel about that? I personally would say then I don't want to work with you. I'm not going to work with somebody that doesn't even care if I get paid or not. Does that make sense? So I wanted to bring that up to clarify. We'll take questions in a bit. I just want to keep going for now. We'll take a break and then I'll see if you have any questions. But we'll take a break pretty quick here. So just write down if you have a question on the buyer agency and the commissions. Okay, I'm just going to repeat it one last time. So when you get to the second page on remuneration, you just let them know that you charge or you want to get paid 3%. And it comes out of the transaction. So you won't have to worry about it. And they say, okay. Then you get it signed, then you do a search, and you pop up, tell them to pick their 5 favorite. If one of them shows that they're paying less, let them know that in most, you can see that there's 4 that pay 3%, and then there's one that's paying less. So if you did want to see that one and you did like it, you'd have to pay the difference. So do you still want to see it? And if they said yes, then you say, okay, so you set up all the showings. And then after, if you come back to the office and they say, we actually decided to buy this one, and there's hardly any money for you to get paid, you'll let them know that what we'll do, I got to get paid. So since you don't want to pay the difference, I'll write it in the agreement that we're offering this, and the term is that the buyer agent gets 3% of the commission. All right? And they should say, no problem, that's fine. Now, you might want to also let them know that sometimes that affects the seller and how negotiable they are. Sometimes they may not come down as much because of the commissions, but let them know, so you always tell the truth and everything. We'll take questions in a little bit, okay? So let's move into today's lesson. Give me an ooh for this. Ooh. So imagine this. Imagine you had $86,400 in your bank account. Can you picture it right now?
Yeah.
Picture the number, $86,400. Now imagine somebody stole $100 from your bank account. Okay, you know how we go onto our bank account to make sure things are being paid and direct debits or for utility bills, and we all look at it on sort of a regular basis. I have so much activity, I almost have to check it every day just to see what's going to come and what's, you know, this and that, right? So maybe some of you it's every day, maybe it's every second day, maybe it's twice a week. But if all of a sudden you see one that just had a couple letters or a couple numbers and it was said $100, you know, what do you normally do when you can't figure out where that money went or what it was for? What do you normally do? Do you just go, oh, well, it must be something? Or do you kind of take a little bit of time to figure it out? Yeah, so we're going to talk about that today. But let's pretend that somebody actually took it. You even knew who it was. Okay? Imagine. Just and don't overcomplicate things and say, well, how could they do this? Let's just pretend somehow somebody stole $100 off you. And you knew who it was. You'd be kind of pissed off at them, yes?
Yeah.
Okay? So, would you be so upset that you would throw the remaining $86,000 away?
No.
Doesn't that sound kind of foolish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody stole $100. At $86,400, somebody stole $100, and I'm going to throw away the other $86,300 to get even at them. That doesn't even make sense. Well, let me say it another way so that we can see that what we're talking about today is time and money, and how we treat them different, yet we say they're the same. And so, what you would probably do is move on and live. You wouldn't throw away your money, right? Like you wouldn't throw it away just to get even with them. So you see, every day we have 86,400 seconds that we live. And somebody comes along and upsets you for 100 seconds, right? And how many people literally throw away the next 50,000 seconds in that day because they're mad? And they're still mad, and it never goes away. Or they're trying to get even with the other person, or, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying. With time, we don't treat it anything like money. But yet, you hear these phrases like time is money, and respecting money and time. You know, time is your most valuable commodity. It's more important than money. And it's really hard for a lot of people. The pessimists can't figure it out. People with job mentality don't understand it. But the true entrepreneur, some of those people that I mentioned, they understand time. Their time is more important than anything at all, okay? So don't let someone's negative 100 seconds ruin your remaining 86,300. Don't sweat the small stuff, right, gang? So let's give you some tips here, some time management facts, actually, right? So just remember, you decide what you're going to do with your time, yes? Yes. You've decided to be in this class, here you are. You decided to do real estate. You've decided what kind of buyer you're going to work with. I hope it's the type that I've told you to follow the steps and make sure it's a proper buyer. What kind of listing you're going to take. Just remember, you can only do one activity at a time, gang. I know that for sure. Now we jokingly will say, you know, some of you ladies, you'll say ladies can do more than one thing at a time, but us guys can't. But it really applies to all of us. You can try, go ahead. I mean, you know, and I'm not talking about this. Maybe See if you can do this, everybody. I'm not talking about this. Okay, rub your tummy and pat your head. Do that. Pretty easy for some of you. Some of you had to focus a bit. That's not totally what I'm talking about. We can do two things at once that way. But you go ahead and you try some of the things you're doing in your office. You'll stop and you'll go, okay, I got to finish this first.
Yeah.
Clean that off, get it done, and then move on and get the next things done. Isn't that right, gang? So you have to understand that we all share time equally. The exact same amount of time. We share time equally. We also understand that time is irreplaceable. Time is irreversible. Which makes us understand we can't actually save time, not from a mathematical sense. You know, we can't say that I know I'm going to need more time on Friday, so I'm going to make Thursday a 22-hour day and Friday a 26-hour day, meaning the laws of the universe. You can't do that, but you can invest time. You could say they're both 24-hour days, but I could put in a couple hours extra on one day so I have more time to do stuff on another day. Does that make sense? You know, like I said, don't overanalyze it too much. It really is just, you know, you invest in time in something and it helps you in another area, right? And as a side note, just remember, it's the most important investment you'll ever make is time. And we're going to give you some tips on how to do that. Not only in life, but also in real estate, of course. So I have a little quiz I want to give you. And I told you about the quiz last week. And I gave you a couple of the answers, or understanding of the question so you knew how to answer it. So we can't take a bunch of time trying to explain each question, so I'm thinking, as we go through the questions, if you don't understand the questions, the way you're going to answer the questions is anything that applies to you, you put a true, that if you're doing it or if it's working for you. Anything you don't understand or anything that's not working for you, then you put an F. Now don't start the quiz right now, please. We're going to do it together, one question at a time. And I may have a comment at the end of each question. So stay focused. And this is another thing to show you how to do one thing at a time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do this here. So the quiz is, so you'll put a T or an F, and you'll do as we go. And at the end, we're going to add up our T's. Don't start now. Some of you already started. Don't put a T, don't put an F yet. Don't read ahead. Who's reading ahead? Be honest. I can see who was. Just relax, look straight up at me and say, okay, Dwayne, when you're ready, I'll put the first question, you'll read it, you'll put a T or an F. Then you'll just stay calm. I'll say the next one, I may have a comment, and you'll put a T or an F. I'll walk you through the whole thing. At the end, we're going to see which category you fall in, and there's going to be a statement from Alan Lankin, who's a time management guru, on what you're going to put in for your results. And then it'll give you something to think about, just to try to improve, or if you're already at a pretty good level. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right, so true or false? I count all my time as on time. Try to get satisfaction out of every minute of my time. Put a T or an F right now. Next one. I try to enjoy whatever I'm doing. Number 3, I build on success. True or false for you? Now, my PowerPoint's a little different than your manual, meaning that I capitalize some words, and they even underline some words. So the next one says, I never. Never is a big word, isn't that right?
Yes.
Never means what it means, never ever. I never waste time worrying about my mistakes. I would think all of us would probably get an F for that, yes? You know? And I put signs where I can see them to remind me of what I want to accomplish. You know, you got goals and rewards, visual boards, sticky notes. You know, do you put signs everywhere? Because it's hard to remember everything, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Number 6, I concentrate on only one thing at a time. Concentrate on only one thing at a time. Number 7, I never let others control what I do. It doesn't say I sometimes don't let others, you know, never is never, if you know what I mean. All right? The next one is I handle each email or piece of paper or letter Only once. Like, are you guys really watching your email program properly? Like, if you looked in your inbox, it's at 0, not 400 unread and 65,000 emails. If it's that, you're going to lose a lot of money in this business, especially the email. You really need to delete all the emails, and you also unsubscribe from everything that's not relevant to you. Clean that system up. Every time you see emails, here's a couple of tips right now, okay? You know how we see emails on our phone? What I do is I don't read them on my phone, unless I can't get to my computer within, a few hours. I do not do that. I would lose so much business, and I'd forget so much stuff if I checked everything on my phone. Because when I reply back from the computer, that's where all my attachments are, that's where where I can save things and all that kind of stuff, not on my phone. So I would make sure that you don't push your email on your phone to read it, as long as you're getting back to your computer soon. And then when you get to your computer, you deal with the email. You should deal with your emails, if you're a busy realtor, probably about 4 times a day. Probably first thing in the morning, sometime around noon, sometime dinner, and sometime before. Then you're just checking. And as soon as you're done with the email, if it's something that you can delete, delete it. But if it's something you want to keep in case you want to do a search for it later, then keep it. Don't ever keep any unopened emails. Make sure you open everything. And I saw one person who had tens of thousands of emails, hundreds and hundreds unopened, and about 300 drafts. You know what a draft is?
Yeah.
I was like, what is all that? And then this is what they did even worse. Is that if they got an attachment from somebody, like a trainer like me, right? I'd send them an email and give them an attachment. They would never save that into a file in their computer. So when I asked them to go look for it, they would have to search on their computer, their email. So they used their email as a filing cabinet. And it's a disaster. And I'm not going to ask you guys to answer what you're doing or what you're not doing, but you really need to analyze how good you're at it. That I got really good at it. It made a world of difference. So I only handled one email once. The old days we used to get papers or utility bills or documents come on your desk. If you just handled them once instead of a pile. If I went to your desk and you had papers piling up, then it's an F for this one for sure. And your email system. All right? The next one, I use a to-do list. See, if you use a to-do list, you never forget anything, isn't that right?
Yeah.
So if you always use a to-do list and never omit the hard things to do, then give yourself a T. The next one, number 10, I often stop to think about what's the best use of my time is at any given moment. That's when you see people that are always rushed. They can't stop and just figure if I'm if I think about what's the best use of my time right now, just stop and think about it. So if you do that all the time, good for you. If not, put an F. I always use the 90-10 rule from lesson 7. That's the one I gave you last week, so put a T or an F for that. Don't ask me what it is, because I told you that I'm going to ask you next week. Make sure you write it down and maybe put it into your weekly activities. So if you can't remember what we talked about, didn't do what we said, then give yourself an F.